Okay, I'm good.
First off, where are you guys want him looking?
You can just look in the middle. You can look at me.
Okay. Okay.
First off, I guess just why are you here? Kind of tell me what you were looking forward to seeing today, what you saw.
I'm delighted to see one of Tennessee's foremost manufacturers right here doing a great job. They're expanding. They're looking at adding 600 more jobs. And this is going to be a terrific opportunity for the company. It's going to be a great opportunity for our state as well, and the local community has benefited greatly from Denso's presence. They're a great corporate citizen. I've known the leadership for years. I worked on helping this company expand when I served as Commissioner of Economic Development here in Tennessee. And it's just wonderful to see the plans come to fruition, to see such a wonderful company expanding here in our own community. And I couldn't be more proud of the fact that Tennessee has become the hub of automotive industry in the entire Southeast. We built a real industrial strength here, and the workforce in our area is very strong. We're doing a great job of building the automotive sector in Tennessee. And as we transition into more electronics, more artificial intelligence, we're seeing that cutting edge technology evolve right here in Tennessee, and I'm very proud to see that happen here today.
And what are some of the challenges that Denso and companies like it have faced over the past year?
Well, I think every company's had to deal with the challenges of the pandemic, changing and modifying their work plans and continuing to keep people safe as they continue to expand and grow. They've been able to keep up production at a time when we've really needed to manage supply chains very carefully. The disruptions that are encountered, particularly by international companies like Denso, have been challenging. But Denso has risen to the challenge, and thanks to the great workforce here in Tennessee, I think has done a great job. The automotive industry has actually seen, increasing growth through the course of this pandemic. And what we've got to do here in Tennessee is continue to remain strong, and Denso has done a great job in doing its part. It's a primary supplier to Toyota, but also to many other automotive companies. And I'm so pleased to see Denso's contribution to maintaining a strong auto sector at a time when the nation has been challenged from a health standpoint and from an economic standpoint. And they played a very critical role right here in keeping our economy moving forward, and I hope making our recovery faster than it otherwise would be.
What is the government's role in helping companies like this be successful?
Well, getting the government out of the way often is the best thing that can be done. But during the course of the pandemic, we've seen the government step in many ways. And this company depends on suppliers from around the country, sometimes small companies that benefited from the PPP program, that have benefited from various aspects of programs that were meant to address a pandemic that was no fault of the people here in America. And so as we continue to grow out of this, I hope to see government step back, and I hope to see our economy flourish as a result of that.
Are there other lessons that can be learned from the pandemic, from the way Tennessee's handled it?
I think Tennessee has done a good job of keeping its economy open. And it's been a challenge for every state in the nation, no doubt about it. And my heart goes out to all of the families that have suffered and many who've lost their lives to this. But Tennessee has kept its head. We tried to keep our economy moving at the same time as we dealt with the pandemic. And I think the results speak for themselves. Tennessee's economy is leading by far. When you look at the average across the United States of America, our unemployment rate is below average. We are below the average, meaning we're doing better than other states. And Tennessee's economy, I think, has flourished in critical areas like automotive that we're seeing here today with Denso. Keeping the automotive sector going has been really critical to keeping our economy from suffering even more than it might otherwise have done. So I'm very pleased to see this type of the safety measures that have been put in place. I think the manufacturing community knows very well how to manage operations and how to modify and adjust. They've made those adjustments here, the health adjustments here, very effectively. And they've set an example for other parts of the world too. Denso immediately flipped over and began manufacturing face masks and distributed those here locally and around the country. It's that type of ability to step up and meet the challenge, help the community, that makes a real difference in the long run. I think all of the associates that work here feel proud to be part of this company, and I certainly know that they feel proud to be part of the Tennessee economy. And I'm certainly pleased to be the United States Senator that represents such a great state.
I'll take one more.
Well, I have one unrelated question I wanted to ask about House Resolution 1, I believe it is. There's been talk about changing the filibuster to try to get that through. Do you have what's kind of your take on that?
Well, I think H.R. 1 is one of these typically misnamed acts. They call it For the People Act. It should be called For the Politicians Act. This is all about a power grab. The Democrats have power by the thinnest possible majority. It's a 50-50 Senate right now, and the only way they hold power is by the vote, the swing vote of the vice president. Yet they're going to try to take advantage of this situation and put in place a set of measures that will forever weaken the confidence of America in the sanctity of our elections. It'll make it much easier for more voter fraud, and it's going to encourage behavior that I think we would regret as Americans for years and decades to come. I certainly hope they don't break the filibuster. You know, there are no Republicans that would support this. There's not a bipartisan aspect to this bill. What this is plain and simple, a power grab to fundamentally change the rules once they get into power in a way that they believe tilts the playing field to their advantage.
I guess just follow up, do you think anything should be done about strengthening voter laws, or what do you, or I guess not strengthening, but I guess allowing more access, letting more people vote? Do you think anything should be done, or what?
The sanctity and the security of elections are critical. I put in place legislation myself to protect the Electoral College and to protect the voting process. What it calls for is an audit of the 2020 election to determine those areas where the Constitution was violated, and that happened in multiple states. And what my legislation would do would be to prevent federal dollars going to support any more elections in those states until those constitutional violations have been rectified. In 2020, America spent $825 million federal dollars supporting elections across the United States of America. My legislation would force an audit, again, to find out where the Constitution was violated, and in those cases, force a fix before any more federal dollars would be allocated to those states for their elections. That's the way to deal with this.
Thank you.
Thanks. I've had a great day here today. We started out the morning in Cookeville. I met with about a dozen mayors there, hearing firsthand what they're experiencing as they try to navigate this pandemic, as they try to get our economy reopened again. We went on to Denso in Maryville. Denso is doing a great job. First, they stepped up making PPE for people right here in Tennessee. They've kept the automotive supply chain moving too. You know, if you think about it, Tennessee has become the hub of automotive manufacturing right here in America, and Denso plays a critical role there. It was great to see how they've navigated and modified their operations to navigate the pandemic, but also to see how they're expanding in the midst of this. They're going to add another 600 jobs in a major new expansion there. So I was very pleased to be with them today to see how they're doing that. As I was serving as Secretary of Economic Development here in Tennessee, I played a role working with Denso to see them expand. It was very fulfilling to see their expansion take place today, to see the progress that they've made, and to see the contributions they're making to our community. I just finished meeting with healthcare leaders right here in Knoxville. They've been right at the front lines. My heart goes out to all of our healthcare workers, to all the frontline workers who have experienced so much challenge. Many of them have lost family members, have had extraordinarily challenging jobs, but they've done a great job stepping up and helping our community. And I appreciate everything that they've done to help us navigate through this pandemic. But I also talked with our healthcare leaders about how we continue to have a healthy and robust healthcare system. I'm particularly concerned about our rural hospitals. We've had significant closures here in Tennessee, and we need to make certain that the runway is clear for a strong and vibrant healthcare system here, right here in East Tennessee. So we're working on those challenges. I was very thankful to have the benefit of input from our healthcare leaders here in Knoxville today. Thank you.
And we know that Covenant has a wide network of hospitals, and you mentioned specifically rural hospitals.
They do.
What were some of the concerns that they brought to you, or just what's the state of things right now?
They have some very significant concerns because volumes and censuses have been affected dramatically through the course of the pandemic. And what concerns, I think, all of us is that people are slow to come back into the healthcare system. There may be many procedures that they didn't do, elective procedures that they might have done, testing, that sort of thing. We need to get back to normal in our healthcare system because it could have long-term effects on our population. At the same time, the economics become ever more challenging every day. And our rural hospitals have a very challenging time. They operate on very thin margins. And the reimbursement rates from Washington are a persistent challenge. They spend a lot of time educating me today on some of those challenges, and I look forward to working with them to try to help address them.
What are some of the biggest challenges they brought to your attention today? What stands out to you?
What really struck me was the rate at which Tennessee hospitals are reimbursed versus other states across the country. There's some adjustments that are made based on cost of living. And Tennessee, being a lower cost of living state, gets lower reimbursements. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of lower and lower reimbursements as some of the higher cost states continue to get higher reimbursements. It's a zero-sum game. The pie doesn't get larger. It's just a matter of whether we're getting our fair share of that pie. So it was very helpful for me to spend time with these healthcare leaders today, with the business people from the hospital as well, to understand the economic impact of this system and how it's challenging them.
Were any possible solutions discussed while you were in the meeting?
Yes, we talked about it, and there's legislation that's being proposed right now to begin to address it. Legislation that would put a floor on reducing these reimbursement rates. I think that could be very helpful. We're going to look at a number of other ways based on this conversation, ways that we can dig in and figure out how to help our hospitals right here in Tennessee.
We know that the pandemic is still going on, and of course we want people to get back in the hospitals for that regular routine care. After your conversations with hospital leaders today, how do you feel about the future of the pandemic here in Knoxville as far as COVID and vaccinations that are happening?
Well, we are getting vaccinations in people's arms right away. I want to see us get our kids back to school, and that'll enable our parents to get back to work and I think get back to a more normal way of life. I think our frontline healthcare workers have been vaccinated, and I feel very good about that. But we need to get our population now to feel good about coming back to the hospital system. That's going to be important for the overall health of our state and our nation. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We talked about some things today that I hope will get us on a solid economic footing so that as we move into 2021, we'll be at a far better place.
There are some people that have reservations about or a little worried about getting vaccinated. Is there any reason for somebody not to get vaccinated?
It's a personal choice for people, but I've made the decision to get vaccinated, and I would encourage those that want to take advantage of the fact that we have vaccinations here in Tennessee that are soon to be available as of April the 5th for everyone 16 and over. But we need to get to herd immunity, and I hope that everybody will think hard about it, pray hard about it, and do their part.
Take a couple more.
I have one kind of off topic, but I know you spent a lot of time in Japan. I know with the recent rising tide of violence against Asian Americans, do you think anything needs to be done on that on a federal level or at all?
Listen, I think we need to be respectful of everyone. This pandemic has created a tremendous amount of psychological turbulence in America and around the world. I worry about the mental health of people that have been, trapped in their homes, trapped in their basements, not been able to go to work. Their children aren't able to go to school. It's a great concern for all of us, and the sooner we can get back to normal, I hope the sooner that we'll see, the sort of concerns that you raise dissipate.
Do you have any legislation plan, or are you assigned to any legislation that will address, let's see, the reimbursement program or convince the state to sign on to the president's, what is it, the Medicaid expansion?
We didn't discuss Medicaid expansion today. What we discussed today were some very specific aspects of Medicare reimbursement. And that is a critical component of the revenues for every hospital in Tennessee and across the nation. So the leaders here today were helping me understand the challenges that they're trying to address right now with the Medicare reimbursement system. And there's some legislative proposals that are on the table right now that they were helping me understand better. So I think that we'll be able to get Tennessee in a better position. I hope our hospital system in a better position to deal with the economic challenges that they've been facing.
Having heard what you heard from them today, is there anything you're prepared to take back to Washington? Anything you think you'll do differently when you get back to Washington?
Well, we're going to dig into the reimbursement mechanisms much deeper. And I got a very good education today from the leaders that are dealing with this on the front lines. And our team is going to get in and work hard with Marsha Blackburn, who has also been very deeply involved in this, and other senators across the nation who are in similarly situated positions with large rural hospital bases. We need to make certain that our rural hospitals are viable and they've got the proper economic support. So today's meetings were extraordinarily helpful to me to understand those challenges and get back to Washington and begin to work with my colleagues on this.
Do you think it will be listened to in the partisan Congress that we have today?
I think there is bipartisan support for addressing this because Democrat states have the same challenges with rural hospitals that we have right here in Tennessee. So I'm going to be looking for bipartisan support to address the concerns that were raised today.
Thanks, guys. Really